Welcome everyone. Today I wanted to talk about setting up a terrain map for a narrative campaign. So main difference between a narrative map setup and a competitive one is, of course, you're not really taking the fairness of the map into a consideration as much. It's more about allowing the terrain that you set up to tell the story. So in this case, I have a grassy battle mat. I also added some river tiles there. And the idea is I'm just going to have kind of an untouched foresty map. All right, so here we are after I put down some hills and rocks. And again, the idea here is just to make this thing look interesting, not necessarily competitive or fair, just trying to break up sight lines a little bit and make it so that you can't just drive all the way across without running into anything. I also kind of wanted to make it make narrative sense. So for instance, this river tile here, there's a bend right there. And so I asked myself, well, why would the river bend there? So if I put some features down, it kind of explains why it's like that. Also, I have some stuff on the edges of the map to indicate why the river is starting and beginning at this side. So it looks like there's, it's coming down from the highlands down into this valley. And as you get further into the valley, the hills kind of change and it's more rolling hills as opposed to mountainous. So that's kind of the idea here. All right, here's what the map looks like now that we have some trees in there. So again, just trying to make it look natural, like where these trees might actually grow if this was a real location. So I have some smaller trees over by the river where it's more mountainous. And then as we get deeper into the forest, I added some larger trees. Again, trying to spread them out, break line of sight and avenues of approach, and just make it a little more interesting. So this is kind of what the bones of the map is going to look like. I also added a little cottage there because my wife's into cottagecore, so I wanted to add that there so that she'd say, hey, I want to play this Warhammer game with you sometime. I mean, that'll happen eventually, right? All right, so here we are after adding some additional gravel and moss to just kind of make it visually more appealing. So the idea of the gravel is just kind of border everything, make it so it kind of seamlessly transitions into the battle mat. So it doesn't necessarily just look like random pieces of terrain placed on a mat and more like a lived-in environment. At least that's the idea. The cottage is kind of looking like my house after a week of my wife being gone and me holding down the fort, pristine, naturally. And so yeah, so here we go. This is what it would look like. Another trick of the trade I like to do is if you have two terrain features that are kind of near each other, you can kind of visually connect them by connecting the gravel that I have bordering everything. So it again is kind of a visual medium for how you want to tell the story here. So this is kind of what it looks like at the end of the day, and I'm excited to play a game on this map.